I didn't walk into that job looking for control. I liked being the guy people came to when they were stuck, the one who knew where the weird legacy spreadsheet lived, or which client was secretly allergic to quick calls. I was good at what I did, and the company rewarded that in the classic corporate way. A slightly better title, a slightly nicer laptop, and the privilege of training people who were technically above me on the org chart. That's how I met Marissa. Officially, she was my manager. Unofficially, everyone knew I'd been there longer, knew the accounts, and could walk into any meeting and speak for our whole department without checking notes. When they promoted her over from another branch, HR pasted her photo on an excited to welcome email and made a big deal about fresh leadership energy. What we actually got was a woman who treated the office like a stage and the rest of us like unwilling extras. First week, she rolled her chair up to my desk, cross-legged, coffee in hand, and said, "So, Evan, you're the guy who really runs things around here, huh?" She did the little air quotes and everything. I shrugged it off and told her I was just the guy who knew where the bodies were buried in the shared drive. She laughed a little too loudly, like I'd auditioned, and passed. I want to be fair, she wasn't incompetent in the obvious ways. She hit her deadlines, knew the jargon, and could turn a meaningless update into a PowerPoint that made upper management nod like they understood. But she had that one trait that looks small from a distance and feels huge up close. She didn't respect boundaries. Not time, not people, not processes. Everything was a suggestion if she hadn't come up with it herself. For a while, I just managed around her. If she forgot to CC important people, I looped them in. When she scheduled 4:30 p.m. Friday meetings, I gently nudged them back or quietly handled the fallout. I picked up pieces because that's what I'd always done, long before she arrived. It was easier than confrontation, and the team trusted me. I told myself that counted for something. The problem was management noticed too. Not the mess. My work made sure they didn't see much of that. But the fact that I could keep a dozen moving parts from falling apart while Marissa was busy polishing her leadership persona. So when a major client invited us to an on-site strategy session in another state, guess who got the travel booking? They didn't ask Marissa. They asked me. "Evan, we need you there," my director said. "You're the face they know. Marissa can hold things down here, right?" He asked it like a rhetorical question, like the answer was obviously yes. I remember looking over his shoulder through the glass wall at her laughing with someone, rearranging sticky notes like she was directing an art film about productivity. I swallowed the unease. "Sure," I said. "I'll leave her a clear handover. She'll be fine." That handover became an Excel sheet, a one-page summary, and a polite email. Nothing crazy. Just the stuff we all knew had to happen that week, when reports were due, which clients were twitchy about delays, who needed approvals, what not to promise. Simple things that keep the whole machine from catching fire. I printed a copy and walked over to her desk the day before my flight. She was scrolling through something on her phone, nails tapping the screen, earbuds in. I waited until she looked up. "Got a minute?" I asked. She slipped one earbud out. "Make it quick. I've got to sink in 5. She actually did the finger quotes again. "I'm heading out tomorrow," I said, holding the paper. "This is everything that's landing while I'm gone. Deadlines, client quirks, all the fun stuff. Nothing new, just consolidated." She skimmed the first line, then flipped the page over and back like she was checking the weight of it, not the content. "You wrote me rules?" she said, a half-smile forming. "They're not rules," I answered evenly. "Just the information I usually juggle. It'll help keep things smooth. Clients get nervous when stuff shifts without warning." She leaned back in her chair, spun once, then looked at me with that particular kind of smile you only see on people who think they've found a weakness. "Evan," she said, voice light, "you do realize I'm your manager, right?" "I'm aware," I said. "That's why I'm making sure you have everything you need." Her eyes flicked down to the paper again, then back up, slower this time, She let out this quiet, theatrical sigh and rolled her eyes so hard it was almost impressive. "You're not my boss," she said, like she was explaining gravity to a child. "I don't need your rules." For a second, the office noise faded. Phones were still ringing, keyboards still clacking, but my brain filed that sentence away with a kind of calm I didn't fully understand yet. I could have argued. I could have reminded her that these rules were the reason she hadn't yet walked into any avoidable disasters. Instead, I just nodded. "Okay," I said. "Then don't think of them as rules. Think of them as context. What you do with it is up to you." She smiled like she'd won something, folded the paper once, then twice, and slid it under her keyboard without looking at it again. "Relax, Evan," she said. "I've been leading teams longer than you've been in this department. Go impress the client. I'll hold down the fort." The way she said it, you could hear the unspoken part. And I'll do it my way. I walked back to my desk, opened my calendar, and stared at the flights and meetings lined up for the next week. On the surface, everything looked normal. My suitcase was half-packed at home. My presentation was rehearsed. The client had already confirmed they were excited to collaborate. But there was this small, nagging feeling in the back of my mind, the one you get when you lock your front door and can't remember if you turned the stove off. I clicked open the handover document, read through it again, and considered sending a copy to my director for visibility. It would have been easy. One extra email, one extra set of eyes. I didn't send it. I told myself it would be fine, that adults do their jobs, that a manager who didn't need my rules would at least respect the basics. I closed the document, shut down my computer, and put my access card in my pocket, telling myself not to micromanage. On my way out that evening, I passed her desk. She was laughing at something on her phone, chair tilted back dangerously close to the point where gravity stops being patient. The folded sheet of paper was still half visible under her keyboard, edge sticking out like a bookmark in a book no one's reading. She caught me looking and flashed a grin. "Safe travels, boss," she said, the word wrapped in sarcasm. I just nodded once and kept walking. At that point, I still believed we were dealing with mild arrogance, maybe a bruised ego. I thought the worst-case scenario was a couple of annoyed clients and some extra cleanup when I got back. I had no idea how expensive that one eye roll was about to become. For her, for the team, and for the version of me that tolerated that kind of disrespect as just part of the job. But that was just the beginning. 2 days into my trip, the first text came at 9:14 a.m. "Marissa, what's the login for the Q4 folder? It's not where you said." I was in a conference room with the client, flipping through numbers, so I couldn't reply right away. By the time I stepped out, 3 more messages were waiting, each one sharper, each one making it sound like I'd hidden things out of spite. I typed slowly, "Me. It's exactly where it's always been. Shared drive, clients, Q4. I didn't move anything." She sent back a single emoji, eye roll, professional. Around noon, one of my teammates, Jordan, messaged me privately. "Hey, just so you know, she told the group you left us with outdated docs. We all know it's not true, but she's rewriting the week." I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Marissa wasn't just ignoring structure. She was bending truth into shapes that made her look like the victim of someone else's competence. Still, I brushed it off. I told myself maybe she was stressed. Maybe she didn't want to look unprepared. People do dumb things when they feel watched. I wasn't ready to call it sabotage. Not yet. The next morning, chaos started dripping into my phone like a leaky faucet. Jordan. "Client A says we missed a deadline." Lena. "Why did she reschedule a deliverable without asking anyone?" Ben. "She told the client you'd approved her changes." I reread the messages 3 times. My stomach tightened, not out of fear, but recognition. This wasn't incompetence. It was performance. She wanted to show that my rules were useless without her interpretation, and she wanted an audience for the show. I called her. She declined. Then she texted, "Can't talk." Managing things. Enjoy your trip. Managing things. The word sat wrong. By Wednesday, the office group chat was basically a quiet disaster log. No one said her name, but every message pointed to the same culprit. She was rearranging priorities, rewriting timelines, micromanaging the wrong people, and ignoring the ones who could actually keep the place steady. I tried giving her the benefit of the doubt one last time. I sent a calm, neutral email summarizing everything: what clients expected, what she'd changed, what needed correcting. Not blaming, just clarity. She didn't reply to me. She forwarded my email to the entire team with a note. See, this is why everyone's confused. Too many cooks. That was the moment I felt the lines snap, not loudly, not angrily, quietly, like a thread pulled once too often. Later that afternoon, Jordan called me from the parking lot, whispering, "Evan, she's bad-mouthing you to the director. Says you didn't prepare her. Says you left her to drown." I pressed the bridge of my nose. "Did she mention the documents, the timelines?" "She doesn't care about facts," he said. "She cares about looking right." I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat alone in my hotel room, staring at the carpet pattern, letting the truth settle. Marissa wasn't overwhelmed. She wasn't confused. She was rewriting the story, and she thought she was the only one holding a pen. That night, something shifted in me. Not anger, not fear. Just a quiet, solid realization. I'd been trying to save people who didn't want saving. The next morning, she sent another message. "Client wants an update at 3. I told them you didn't give me what I needed. Need you to send it ASAP." I replied, "You already have everything. Please refer to the handover." Her answer came instantly. "You're not being supportive. Step up." I stared at those two words, step up, and felt a calm, clean clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. I wasn't stepping up, I was stepping back. And the moment I stopped holding the scaffolding, the whole structure she'd built around herself started to wobble. By Friday, the team had stopped messaging me updates, because the situation had moved past confusion into something else. Something quieter, heavier. Jordan called me in a low voice. She did something. Something big. I don't know what it is yet, but everyone's acting weird. His words tightened the air around me. Something big, something irreversible. I felt it before I knew it. The silence you hear right before glass cracks. I ended the call and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my suitcase. For the first time all week, I wasn't afraid of what I'd returned to. I was afraid of what she'd already done. But I wasn't running from it. I wasn't making excuses. I wasn't going to patch up her decisions this time. Whatever waited for me back at the office, one thing was certain. She thought I was gone. I wasn't. And then silence, the kind that means something's gone wrong. When I walked into the office Monday morning, the air felt heavy, like everyone had exhaled but forgotten how to inhale again. No chatter, no casual keyboard clacking, just an uncomfortable, stretch-thin quiet. Lena was the first to look up. Her eyes flicked to me, then to Marissa's office, then back again. A warning without words. I set down my bag, opened my laptop, and saw it immediately. 3 missed calls from our director, 7 emails from the client, and a calendar invite titled Urgent Project Escalation, 11:12 a.m. I hadn't even taken off my jacket. Jordan slid into the seat beside my desk, like someone sneaking into a hospital room. He lowered his voice. "Evan, she changed the deliverable. The big one. The one that determines renewal." My brain stalled. "Why?" "She said your outline was inefficient and wanted something more visionary." He made air quotes like the word tasted sour. "She sent the client an entirely new direction, without telling anyone, including the design team." I blinked. "How bad is it?" Jordan looked down at his shoes. "They rejected everything, not just the new proposal. Everything. They're considering walking away." The room seemed to tilt. That contract was one of our most stable accounts. Losing it would hit the department like a hammer. I stood, walked straight to the project folder and saw the evidence, timestamps, changes, overwritten files, email threads with her name all over them. She'd bulldozed the structure, redirected half the deadlines, and attached her new version with a line, "Approved by our team lead, Evan." The lie sat there, bold and casual. I printed the email, slowly, calmly. Then I went to her office. She looked up from her computer with a bright, sugary smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Oh, Evan, welcome back. Big week, huh?" "You told the client I approved the new proposal." Her smile chilled, flattening into something sharper. "You weren't here. Someone had to make decisions." I held up the printed paper. "You used my name." "Because it carries weight," she said, shrugging. "You should be flattered." I stared at her. She wasn't joking. She genuinely believed what she was saying. "The client escalated to the director," I said. "They might pull out." She leaned back, crossed her arms, and said it with absolute confidence. "Well, then you'll explain it to them. You've always been good at cleaning up messes." That was the moment, the exact moment. I felt something quiet click into place inside me. Not rage, not humiliation, just a clean, sharp understanding. She didn't think she'd done anything wrong. She thought that she was untouchable. "I'm not cleaning this one up," I said softly. Before she could respond, our director's assistant appeared in the doorway. "Evan, Marissa." The meeting's moved up. 10 minutes. We walked together, side by side, but not as co-workers. More like two people heading toward a door only one of them understood. The conference room was colder than the rest of the office. The director sat stiffly at the head of the table. The client was already on the screen, arms folded, expression unreadable. Marissa immediately launched into her performance. "First, let me apologize for any confusion. Evan left incomplete notes, and I had to act quickly. I tried to salvage the situation, but without proper support." I watched the director's jaw tighten. The client looked at me. Everyone waited. I opened my folder and slid a stack of printed pages onto the table. A week's worth of receipts, the original handover, the emails she'd ignored, the files she'd overwritten, and finally, the fake approval she'd sent. "I'd like to clarify," I said, calm as a surgeon. "These aren't leadership decisions. These are unilateral actions made after refusing the project structure. I wasn't consulted. I wasn't informed. And I didn't approve anything she submitted." The director leaned forward. "Marissa, is this true?" She laughed, actually laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "Come on. You're just going to take his word? Evan has been undermining me since day one. He wants control. He likes making me look unprepared. Ask anyone." Jordan spoke first from the corner. "That's not true." Then Lena. "He held everything together while you ignored deadlines." Then Ben. "He didn't sabotage you. You sabotaged us." One by one, voices rose. Not loudly, not emotionally, but steadily. A quiet rebellion. Marissa's face drained of color. "You're all exaggerating. You're confused. This is a coordinated attack." "No," I said gently. "This is the truth catching up." The client cleared his throat. "We'll stay with your company, if Evan takes over this project, effective immediately. Marissa is not to contact us further." Our director nodded once. A verdict. The meeting ended with a simple sentence directed at me. "Evan, stay. Marissa, please pack up your things until further notice." She froze, just for a second. Then the mask slipped, anger sharpening every line of her face. "You think this is over?" she hissed at me. I didn't flinch. "It is for me." That was the mini catharsis. Quiet, final, clean. The moment I stopped being the hero who carried everything. The moment I let the consequences land where they belonged. As she walked out, shoulders stiff, eyes burning, the office didn't celebrate. It exhaled, and I sat there alone for a moment, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness. The kind you get right before rebuilding starts. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. By the time Marissa left the conference room, I could feel the shift in the building. Not celebration, not relief. Something quieter. like the office itself was resetting its posture after months of bracing for impact. People spoke in low voices. Doors closed softly. The fluorescent lights didn't buzz as loudly anymore. Our director gestured for me to follow him. His office was usually cluttered with binders and outdated award plaques, but that morning the desk was bare except for 2 folders, one with my name, one without. He didn't waste time. "We reviewed everything," he said, tapping the folder with my name. "The clients trust you. The team trusts you. And frankly, this department has been running on your shoulders for a long time. That needs to change." I waited, not out of fear, but because for once I didn't feel the need to fill silence. Then he opened the other folder. "We're terminating Marissa's employment effective today. HR is handling the paperwork." He paused. "I'm sorry it got this far." I nodded. "I'm not." He let out a breath that sounded like a confession. "We'd like you to step into the role she held. Officially, with compensation to match. You've earned it." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. The offer wasn't a surprise. It was a correction. The kind that arrives too late to feel triumphant, but just in time to feel right. "I'll take it," I said simply. "Under one condition." He raised an eyebrow. "Which is, no more patchwork leadership. No more people promoted to look good on paper. I want a team that respects each other, and a manager who doesn't treat coworkers like props." He nodded without hesitation. "You'll have full hiring input moving forward." That was enough. I walked out of his office feeling strangely steady, like the ground had finally stopped vibrating beneath me. When I returned to my desk, the team didn't swarm me, didn't gossip. They just looked up, small nods, relief in their eyes. Not because Marissa was gone, but because the uncertainty was. Lena approached first. "So, we're okay?" "We will be," I said. "Let's clean this up, one step at a time." The day moved smoothly. I rebuilt the timeline, reassigned tasks fairly, called the client personally and laid out a concrete recovery plan. They appreciated the structure. They appreciated the calm. They appreciated that someone finally sounded like they knew what they were doing. By 3 p.m., the project was back on track. By 5, the office felt like a workplace again, not a storm. I packed my laptop and headed toward the elevator when HR stepped out. "She's cleaned out her desk," they said quietly. "Left her badge. She's gone." There was no triumph in the words, just finality. As I walked to the parking lot, the late afternoon light cast long shadows across the asphalt. My reflection in my car window looked the same as always, but something in the posture was different, less tightened, less guarded. I drove home with the windows cracked, letting the cool air in. No phone buzzing, no half-crisis waiting, just the hum of the road. At home, I made dinner, not out of exhaustion, but out of choice. I ate slowly, cleaned the counter, sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water. Everything felt quiet. The kind of quiet you notice when you realize you've been living inside noise for too long. My phone buzzed once. A single email. From her. Not angry, not dramatic. Just a line. "I never thought they'd listen to you." I closed the email without replying. There was nothing to say. That night, the sleep came easy. No replaying conversations. No imagining different lines I should have said. No apologizing to myself for tolerating what I shouldn't have. Just rest, real, full rest. The next morning I arrived early to the office, the first one in. Lights flicked on one by one. For the first time in months, the place felt like mine. Not in the sense of ownership, but in the sense of responsibility that isn't suffocating. By lunch, the team's energy was different. People joked, shared ideas. Lena brought donuts because the curse is lifted. Jordan actually smiled. Ben said he didn't stop at his car for 10 minutes, debating whether to quit. Later that afternoon, as I walked to the break room, I saw the empty desk where Marissa used to sit. No papers, no sticky notes, no perfume hanging in the air. Just a chair, neatly pushed in. A reminder that the absence of the wrong person often feels more like space than loss. I didn't gloat. I didn't replay the moment she walked out. I didn't wonder what she was doing now. Some endings don't need an echo. By the end of the week, the client praised our progress and renewed the contract. The director forwarded the email to the entire team with a note. Great work. Strong leadership. I knew what it meant. The team knew. And honestly, that was enough. On Friday evening, as I stepped out into the fading light, I realized something simple but important. Peace doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with trumpets or applause. It just settles in quietly when the wrong people leave and the right choices stay. I locked the office door, slipped the keys into my pocket, and walked to my car with no weight on my shoulders. No more fixing messes I didn't make. No more carrying people who wanted the title but not the responsibility. No more letting someone rewrite the story while I stayed silent. The week had ended. The noise had ended. And for the first time in a very long time, so had she. I got in the car, started the engine, and drove home. Not victorious, not vengeful, just whole.